How's it going out there? It's February 3rd. And I'm Frank Curzio, host of the Wall Street Unplugged podcast, where I break down the headlines and tell you what's really moving these markets. So, if you're watching this on a Curzio Research YouTube page, be sure to subscribe. But you're going to see me wearing a Tom Brady jersey. And it's Super Bowl week. I'm going to come up with my prediction. This is not an indication of my prediction. I'm wearing this because I lost the bet. I don't know if I lost it, but I really won the bet. But I was in a fantasy football league with my buddy Glenn, who is a diehard Tom Brady, would dump his wife for Tom Brady and marry him. Loves everything Tom Brady. And the Patriots, he's still a Brady fan now that he's at the Bucks. But he was running our fantasy football league, and I didn't have a lot of time. So, I said, look, you're going to have to do most of the work. And he wound up picking up Tom Brady and said, if we win this thing with Tom Brady as our quarterback, I'm buying you a jersey and you have to wear it for your podcast. I said, done. And we won the league. So I won, but I lost the bet, and now I'm wearing this. As you could see right here, the Buccaneers, I'm wearing it. It's a bet. I'm going to honor it. I'll wear it throughout this podcast. But I'm going to be making my Super Bowl prediction later in the show, like I've had for the past 10 years. And I went 0-8 against the spread. I'm going to throw out the Eagles game because that's the Super Bowl I went to. That's what this bottle I have next to me, right? Super Bowl winners. I went to Super Bowl Minnesota. It's unbelievable. But outside of that, I've lost every single Super Bowl, and I've been following football 40 years. I break down, analyze it, and as a joke, if you're new to listen to this, I said, listen, it's the most guaranteed bet ever. I'm going to make perfect sense to you and tell you why that team's going to win, and buy the spread, you take the points, and I lose every single week until last year when I had the Chiefs. So I'm going to break this down later on. You don't want to miss it. Really break it down in depth, including the best prop bets. And I'm hoping it's going to be a good Super Bowl. Now, I want to start this podcast off by really talking about GameStop and the short selling drama, which is getting pretty sad now. I mean, you're seeing it fall under $100, GameStop. I mean, it was like $500 at one point for a couple of minutes, but it's really like you start over $300, $350. And it's sad because a lot of these kids are starting to get wiped out. And all of you know the story by now. It's every place. They have like thousands of people talking about it. 90% of these people are unqualified in the media. They just, I don't even know. Again, you get on TV. It doesn't matter if you know or not. But just listening to them is not going to make you smart. It's going to make you dumber. So many of these people. And I'm not saying that to criticize, but there are great people out there that I really want to know what is going on. And now they talk about something that's really cool. Daniel and I will break this down later. But the clearinghouses and how when the stocks are at the clearinghouse, and I know you did a private placement, you understand this because your shares are usually at a clearinghouse. But when that lockup is over or whatever, they hold them at the clearance, and it takes 2 days, and you own the shares, so you could rent them out. And even if the person can't even sell them if those shares are at the clearinghouse, but they're breaking that down now, which is becoming a big story. That's the next chapter in this. But I won't go through every single thing, but I do want to talk about how it all gets started. Where a guy named Jamie Roganiski, he started the blog on Reddit in 2012 called Wall Street Bets, and started with a few thousand people, and as you know, it blew up tremendously, right, over the past month or two, and I think it's over 2.5 million people on it. Also, a guy that was Keith Gill joined, I think, later on, and really big promoter of GameStop, had a massive position, told everyone on the blog, constantly posting, hey, you know what, these hedge funds, they short more than 100% of float. If we squeeze this guy, this thing's going to take off. Never in his wildest dreams did he think it'd go to 300. He probably thought it would go to 60, 70, 80. And it's 90 today, right? This is a stock that's pretty much worth like $3 on paper. Everybody bought in, and look, these guys were heroes a week ago. And they crushed a major hedge fund, Melvin Capital, $12.5 billion. They had to get bailed out, and it crushed a lot of other short-selling firms who took on too much risk and now changed the landscape of the industry with these short sellers and how they market these picks, where Citron's not providing research anymore. They're one of the biggest short sellers. And then you have Pershing Square, who said, we don't have any short positions as of January. Got all the short positions, right? It's changed the landscape. It's going to continue to do that. But now that these stocks are absolutely crashing, GameStop, AMC, Nokia, I mean, you can go on and on. American Airlines is on that list for a while. I could see Wall Street and the regulators going after these guys on Wall Street Bets. I mean, really going after them. Since Keith said he lost $13 million last week. Guys, we're talking about big money here, right? We think of these kids and some of these guys, I mean, they had options 2025 call options with a stop going to 250, 300. Do the math. It gets pretty insane. And that's 13 million of the more than 20 million that he made on his GameStop trade, which I believe he still owns. But I could really see the regulators going after them since, a lot of kids are getting smoked now. I could see regulators where, which is, when I say regulator, Wall Street, right? Wall Street in some sense. I don't know if you guys know this. It's very easy to find. Just, do search. But the SEC is a government organization. They don't pay a lot of money. So when you move up the chain and you get to a certain level, maybe, I don't know, you can make 125,000, maybe a little bit more, 150 if you're really the top person. But they really pay these guys nothing, right? It's government jobs. They give them great benefits. So what happens when you move up the chain and you know everybody? Then you're like, I'm out of here because Goldman Sachs is going to pay you $2-3 million and Morgan Stanley's going to pay $3. So all like those top SEC officials or who have the major connections because they've been in the SEC for a long time to build up, they all work for the major institutions, which is Wall Street, right? But I could see to try to discredit these guys to where a revolution like this or something that disrupts Wall Street to a multi-billion-dollar hedge funds had to get bailed out. I can see this never happens again. I really think that could happen. And I use the word revolution, and not lightly, because the heart of this movement is about the little guy, right? Fighting against a 600-pound gorilla, which is Wall Street, right? So you have David versus Goliath. And I believe it was Jamie who talked about his family experience. I think it was him who wrote that. I took it down for some reason. I don't know why I took it down. But he talked about the reasoning behind what he, why he created this, what he's doing, where his family, I think they lost their jobs, had a bunch of people living in their home, parents had no money, all because of the market crash 2008. And then what happened? All the banks, institutions got bailed out. Nobody went to jail. Nobody went to jail. Nobody got punished. It wasn't a big deal. And look how big these companies are now. Look at the major banks. I mean, you look at the banking industry, it's one industry, the banking industry, where you can't start a company from scratch and become like one of the largest in the world. Now, you can't do go the route of Facebook or, just any company, Amazon, like starting small and getting big. You can't do that in the bank. They don't allow it because of the rules in place. So these guys get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The capital requirements that you have to keep on the book, it's impossible. Not impossible, but there's a reason why it's been, the four major banks for a long time. And you haven't seen 7, 8, 9 different banks really breaking into that. You could do it with oil. Look what Pioneer did. I mean, look at some of these shale fracking companies challenged some of the majors and stuff, and then market caps got up there. You can't do that in banking, right? Because those are the rules. Those are rules put in place. But holding GameStop is personal to him. It wasn't about where he was trading or the money he made, although you're making money. But the point is that Wall Street deserves to get, excuse my language, fucked. Since they always win. And you know what? I could identify with that. So in 2001, I was working at my dad's firm, FXC Investors. We managed money, published a newsletter called the FXC Newsletter. It was a lot of fun. And my dad called the 87 market crash. Literally titled his newsletter Crash 1 month before it happened. And he said this crash would be worse than the prior 3 crashes combined. And he went on TV and just every single program picked him up. And it's 87, guys, not today where they have 5,000 people on there from so many different firms. Only a small group of people that they listen to. And, CNBC was just getting going, and Maria Bartiromo, I used to go there as a kid and meet Bill Griffith and Sue Herrera and everything. But after that call, he became a household name, right? At least in the finance industry. He's on Neil Cavuto. He's on all kinds of, everything. Wall Street Week, everything. Louis Rukeyser. So by the 90s, our business was doing well. It was growing and grew into 2000. When my dad also called the tech crash, he was about 6 months too early, which was a big deal because the NASDAQ went up a ton, but he was positioned for it and saw it coming and called that right. And again, helped his clients out tremendously. So our assets grew to over $100 million, which is, substantial back then. We talk about 2000. We had over 10,000 subscribers who paid, I think we're charging $39 for an annual subscription for the newsletter. So you look at the numbers, we're not generating millions. I can't remember a year where we actually generated more than $1 million in net income, if we ever did. And my dad was perfectly okay with that. I mean, it frustrated us as kids when we were working. They were like, oh, you got to grow, you got to get bigger, bigger, bigger. But, that was him. He loved having a small business. He loved going upstate 4 months out of the year in New York, where he worked out of his small office with my mom while he fed all his animals, pigs, chickens, rabbits. It's called, all the kids now call it Grandpa's Farm. We still go up there. We still have the house. That's what he loved. Now, my dad always had a great performance. He averaged annual gains of 22% for over 2 decades. And then our performance was picked up by Pension Investments magazine. They published an article showing that we were ranked number 1, and the companies under us were all institutions. I believe it was Goldman, a couple of others, Morgan Stanley. And we didn't manage any money for institutions, just individuals. And I think Pension Investors sent us a questionnaire. We get questionnaires from so many different places, Dick Davis Digest and Holbrook Financial Digest, and I think it was one of our employees filled it out, but, with our performance numbers, which are factual. Not knowing this ranking only included money managers, where the rules are different when it comes to publishing results. So again, we didn't capitalize it on it, get one account from it, or wound up managing any institutional money from it, no. But it was interesting because a few weeks later, no coincidence here, the SEC knocked on our door and ordered a cease and desist. Right? And they ordered us. This is October 2001 to June 2002. So 9 months where we couldn't send out any marketing material, basically a complete halt in our business. And man, they were going through every single number, every client, all the company and personal bank accounts. We tore the business. I just ripped it apart. And the SEC was looking to find us and accuse us of fraudulent advertising. They wanted to put fraud on it. They basically said that our newsletter performance was not exactly the same performance for our managed clients. And that is true. Since so many of our clients, we managed individual accounts, and we were instructed by them to structure their portfolio. Well, they'll have, a certain allocation in aggressive, speculative. Some of them own more closed-end bond funds. Some own more aggressive picks. And then we had balanced picks and large, so we had a mix of these companies. But the performance was accurate. But it wasn't every single client had the exact same performance of the news. It depended on their allocation. So every managed account was different, and that's what they argued. Now, the SEC presented no expert testimony, no testimony from prospective advisory clients. The division conceded eventually that FXC's advertisements were not material misleading to FXC's existing advisory clients, how they worded it. And they determined the harm to others was not great, meaning it was completely non-existent, right? We did not lie about anything. Our figures were accurate, but they were based on our newsletter. They determined, after looking at all of his bank accounts, that FXC investors, my dad, did not enrich themselves financially. And again, they provide no witnesses because almost all of our clients were extremely happy with my dad's performance. He's outperforming the market like crazy every year after year. You're not going to be around for 22 years, and it's more 30 years in total, unless you're good at your job. And he was great at it. So when all is said and done, the SEC ruled that FXC investors cease to desist from committing any future violations going forward. They ordered that FXC engage an investment advisory consultant, which, we're a small business, and if we wanted to focus on institutions, right, all right, we should have an investment advisory consultant to help us out with that. I never thought about doing that. Again, it's a small business. See, when I open this business, you don't think about, when you open a small business, and you don't think about providing benefits. Like, how am I going to provide benefits for people? The healthcare, credit card processing, accounting, you're focusing on what you're good at, but all that stuff comes into play if you get bigger and bigger. But then the SEC went out and published in the Wall Street Journal, front page, left-hand side, when they have, they just break down individual stories, but they investigated us for fraud, which is where most of our marketing was done, through TV. We didn't know anything about marketing. My dad's going on TV all the time. Again, back then, it's about 10 to 15 people they listened to. I mean, Navalier, Gabelli, Abby Cohen from Goldman, Elaine Gazzarelli. But this was 9 months. Imagine that you stopped marketing your business for 9 months, like completely shut down. I know many of you could identify with this because you were forced to shut down due to COVID, and look what happens to your business. But FXC investors, our business was destroyed. Our subscriber count fell by 70%. Assets under management fell into $25 million. We didn't have to register with the SEC anymore, just individual states. Then my dad had told me about integrity. He should always put the customer first. Well, I was there when a lady walked in off the streets and said, "Hi, I heard about your TV. You're great." And had a $3 million portfolio. Again, we had $100 million. That's a big portfolio. And my dad looked at it and said, you know what, you're positioned well, so we really can't help you. I mean, who does that? Who does that, right? Who does that? No, I could do better. I could do it. No. The lady wanted to give us business, but he knew he couldn't really help her, and she had a great diversified portfolio and said, just stick with what you got and don't pay the fees. But now he had a stain on his name all because some, excuse the language, fucking asshole at an institution who probably worked for the money management firms that were ranked under us in pension investments brought this to the SEC's attention, which led to the investigation. But it gets even better. Stay with me here. So when all this crap was going on, my dad was a mess. He was stressed out. And not because he thought he did something wrong. We did nothing wrong. We knew everything was good, but we were losing accounts like crazy. We were paying lawyer fees. He was worried about supporting his family if the business went under, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Since my dad, you look at the industry back then, he could have easily made tens of millions of dollars and then paid a fine to the SEC for $3 million, just like Merrill did with Henry Blodgett, who pumped stocks from Merrill during the dot-com era. You know, Merrill just threw Blodgett under the bus, paid a fine. They generated hundreds of millions of dollars in fees. I think, they paid whatever, maybe 20, whatever the fine was, which is nothing. It was definitely worth it, but that doesn't promote you not to do wrong, right? Promote you to keep, listen, if you're only going to get busted and you're not going to jail. Blodgett didn't go to jail. He got fined a little bit, but he made an absolute fortune. Everything worked out. Merrill worked out. They made a fortune. Henry Blodgett made a fortune. And they paid the SEC fine, which is just, again, that's Wall Street, right? But no, he never did that. He didn't want to build a huge firm. He was content being a small business owner, working on his terms and providing for his family. But that stress, man, it led to him smoking 2 packs a day, wasn't eating right, gray hair's coming out. I never saw my dad more stressed out than that. And towards the end of the investigation, just like a month or two for basically they didn't do it, they didn't find nothing, right? Didn't find anything. They shut our business down, but they didn't find anything. My dad ended up getting diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And he passed away less than a year later. That's Wall Street for you. That's why I started Curzio Research. To level the playing field between Wall Street and Main Street, because it's a disgrace. And I know, I worked on Wall Street. I saw the shit that takes place there. It is an absolute joke. The advantages they have over Main Street are a joke. But that story, that's the motivation. That's motivation to beat these guys, to build a company, build Curzio Research into a multi-billion-dollar company to compete with these guys, take business away from them. We could fight against them. And when we get that, it's always going to be focusing on helping the little guys. So when it comes to Wall Street Bets and that blog, I get it, man. I get you guys. I hear what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. Now, with that said, a lot of these kids are getting crushed now, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world, right? You're going to learn more from losing at an early age than winning, especially about risk management, which ironically gave birth to this revolution as Melvin Capital used zero risk management, naked shorting GameStop, getting caught off guard, which caused it to get bailed out by other hedge funds. What is it, $2.5 billion need to be infused? They lost over 50% of their position. And now you have a lot of people, capitalizing on it or representing this group now, right? Because there's so many people. You have headers like Elon Musk is talking about. You have Chamath, who's, again, he's all over everywhere now. And then David Portnoy. And I have to tell you, I love all three of these guys. I do. I'm a big fan of all three of them. They become very influential people now during this movement. Not the beginning. No, they came in and made their money and did, I don't know if Elon Musk played it so much, but Chamath bought call options, made $500,000, showed the call options on Twitter, and then, he's donated it, which he should have. And that was on GameStop. David Portnoy owns, AMC, but loud voices and influential people where many of them, when this all happened, Robinhood shut down and said, we're not going to allow anyone to buy, restrictions on it. These guys were just like balls to the wall on Twitter, going crazy and saying, posting like crazy. And, I remember some saying, these kids, hold the stock here, I'm holding the stock. And, just shouting at top of the roof, Robinhood placing restrictions on GameStop and other stocks is illegal. It's bailing out Wall Street, so you need to hold the line. I mean, look, Portnoy, Chamath, Musk, I'll even throw Mark Cuban in there, has been, vocal now in this, I like Mark Cuban, and I know he likes himself and likes attention, which is fine. That's cool. He deserves it, and he's very successful. Tremendous respect, again, for all these guys, big fans, but they need to check their egos at the door a little bit. I mean, these guys could afford to lose millions, and they won't blink an eye. They wouldn't even know they lost this money. But the influence they have over the younger community, where these kids are holding GameStop, which is probably worth $3 a share based on fundamentals. AMC is an insolvent company. Hey, $5 billion in debt, no revenue coming in. No one's going to the movies. Hardly any revenue coming in. And these guys are in big trouble. Yet we saw this thing rocket. But I think we need to be better than this. And when I look at David Portnoy has, millions of Twitter followers, millions, 2.5, 3 million last time I looked at it, Instagram followers, and telling these people not to sell the stock trading at 300 that's worth $3. I mean, you're a guy that could afford to stand on that wall, but 99% of the people who are listening to you can't. They can't. You tell them to hold a $300 stock that's worth $3. Maybe it's worth $6 if my analysis is off a little bit. Even 10. But it's not 300. And it is going to get to single digits. It's just a matter of time. As somebody say to people who listen to David, it's their responsibility to do research before buying anything. And I agree with that. That's true. But let me tell you something. I mean, a lot of you out there listen to the podcast. You subscribe to my service. Even own our security token, Curzio Equity, CEO token. But imagine if I recommend a stock that crashes, or I'm talking about a stock that crashes, and when you email me, say, what do I do with it? This is down. I say, look, you should have done your own homework. It's your responsibility. I mean, you guys, you cancel your subscription, stop listening to me immediately, and you should. You should. But you listen to this podcast, listen to me to get new ideas I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on every single year, traveling around the world to find unique ideas, different opportunities, expand my network, and bring this stuff to you. There's a responsibility behind that. I mean, Portnoy doesn't have a financial newsletter, but he makes a fortune in ad dollars from a lot of those followers who are like to go to Barstool, they're going to bet. And now a ton of people, millions, are following his trading advice, which, by the way, the guy's been dead right. I think it's the last 3-4 months, just been buying everything, saying this game is so easy. And now you realize it's not easy. It's not. There's times where it's easy and there's times it's difficult. But a lot of these kids, they never saw a bear market for 3, 4, 5 years like we saw with the mining industry. Look what happened with the guys in Vancouver and how tough it's been. And it came back, gold shot up, and you've seen uranium, seen silver and everything. But you go through a bear market, you understand, you learn about risk management. But Portnoy got a lot of stuff right over the past 6 months. But I just think having that type of following, it comes with responsibility. I know it's not done on purpose or he's manipulating anything, but a lot of kids got killed over the past few days by holding GameStop, buying it at 200, 250 on margin. And again, the stock's going to go back to the single digits. It's just a matter of time. You could play it and go to 300 first and go to 400 first. I don't know where it's going to go. I just know that the stock will be in the single digits because that's what it's worth. And that's $7, $8, $9 is a crazy expensive valuation. I mean, the price target should be like $1, $2 on this stock. But sometimes when we get caught up in emotions, we're fighting for something that we truly believe in, like this revolution, like these people, Wall Street bets. You're trying to make a statement, trying to disrupt an industry that makes money, takes advantage of the little guy. You lose sight of the big picture a little bit. And for me, I want more kids to learn about trading. It's a great thing. You're young. You lose your money. You have plenty of working power. It's fine. But you have to go through those emotions and be like, holy shit, I just had $1 million and now it's like 50 grand. Oh, you go through that and you learn and you build it. Because I can tell you, if you do it at 50 or 60 and you lose the money, you don't have a lot of working power. Maybe you do. You want to work till you're 92 to pay your bills? No. But I hope this doesn't discourage these kids. Because I'm happy, truly happy, that they're deciding to take advantage of the system, which the system is lower interest rates, the Fed stimulus. Don't fight it. I mean, these are kids that were holding up signs protesting that they hate the Fed and student loan bills over 100,000. Now they're buying assets. They're buying equities. That's what we want, right? You can make a lot of money investing over the long term. A lot of these kids look at short term, how much money you can make. If you do it the right way, it's not that difficult. You want proof? Pull up a chart of the S&P 500 since inception, like 1950s when it became 500 companies. It's a line that always goes to the left, to the right, straight up. I said a few periods, 2008, March this year. Yeah, the tech, but it's straight up. We're near record highs. 8% annual returns over 60 years. You know how much that is when you compound it? I'm not going to tell you, throw a calculator up, and you'll see millions and millions of dollars. And you would have got paid a nice dividend on top of that of 1.5% every year. Around that. But there's times to take on risk. There's times to own cash. And there's times to own dividend stocks. Also times to buy value stocks. Time to buy growth stocks. Time to allocate money to bonds. And having someone that can guide you, just like, I was lucky, man. I was lucky. I had my dad who, had Jim Cramer. I mean, people have their thoughts about Jim Cramer. I work right next to him, man. He was tough. He was hard on me. But, man, I learned everything about growth investing. I mean, I was fortunate. Very, very fortunate and lucky. I mean, that means everything. If you want to learn more about the markets, get great ideas from someone who loves this shit, right? I mean, I work 14 hours a day and continue listening to this podcast. The best thing you could do, and if you want to try us out, go to our Dollar Stock Club letter, which is $4 a month, right? We make no money off of it. It's $4 a month. After marketing, we make no money off of that newsletter. But what it does is it shows you the type of research, right? And that takes one pick from our podcast, from our guests every week. And we write up a one-page report, put a target price on it, nice PDF. There you go. And here's what we think about it. And it's not always easy to find that stock because sometimes I'll get it. I talk to my guests that I interview offline before the interview and after the interview, and they'll talk about ideas. I talk about ideas, and I'll say, hey, you know what? And I'll present it, but it's ends up to be like $1 a week, which is nothing. But why is it so low? And why am I providing a newsletter out there that doesn't make any money for us, right? It's because it's a starter newsletter where I could show you the research. We show you what we do here. And when you see it, our hope is that if we make you money, that you're going to subscribe to our premium products, which are all doing absolutely fantastic right now. Speak, like 3 newsletters that I have. I mean, they're on fire. Crypto intelligence, Curzio venture opportunities, which I'll talk about later. We're going to open that membership back up. You go to our website and see the link. Going to provide 40% discount. That's what I mean when open it back up. But that's our goal here. I mean, this is why I want to start a free clinic for kids and pick like 12 to 15 kids. We're going to do that. It's been busy just trying to get a little more liquidity for my token. And it's been busy over here. We're growing more downloads. Thanks to you so much. And it's awesome right now. But I want to start that clinic. And the only thing I ask is, listen, I'm going to be hard on you. And if you're half-assing, I'm going to kick you out of it. I'm getting a lot of emails, frankcurzioresearch.com, so many kids that want to go into it. The only thing I ask, the only thing I want is pay it forward. I've been lucky. I'm paying it forward. This is a free podcast. Not every one of you subscribe to my newsletters, but you pay it forward. That's what you're supposed to do for every generation. You're supposed to pay it forward and make the next generation smarter. I want to give you everything that I've learned. Hopefully, you'll be able to pass that down to 10, 15 people that really want to get better and make a difference and change the world. That's the goal. But anyway, continue to listen to the podcast. Continue to have some great guests on, awesome guests. And speaking of guests, I have a high-profile, very high-profile is a guest on today. He's a former Secretary of Energy for the Bush administration. His name is Spencer Abraham, Secretary Spencer Abraham, who is now the chairman of the board at Uranium Energy, a company that's been on fire lately, run by my buddy Amir Adnani. So Spencer, one of the smartest people you'll know in the energy sector, knows everything, helped the U.S. sign energy deals with foreign nations, knows all technologies. And here's a guy that just decided to say, hey, I can go any place I want to go, which you'll hear in the interview. Any place you want to go. And he decided to go to UEC, small uranium company. It's interesting. So we're going to break down the oil industry, what the cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline means to the oil industry, as well as less fracking, right, which the current administration ran on. This isn't political here, right? It's not political. We just want to position ourselves right. But does this mean we could lose our energy independence? Does this mean oil prices are going to go high? We're going to cover all that stuff. Spencer's also going to address a zero carbon emissions by 2050 objective. Can we really achieve that? Very interesting what he has to say. And finally, he's going to break down the nuclear energy sector. Pay close attention. There's not too many people that know more about this sector than this guy. Again, could have went anywhere he wanted. He chose UEC. He's chairman of the board. It's amazing. So it's a great, great interview. And you know what? Let's get to it right now. Secretary Abraham, thank you so much for coming on Wall Street Unplugged.
Thank you, Frank. It's clearly a busy and interesting time on Wall Street. So you're no doubt covering a lot of interesting matters this week.
Especially this week. And you know what? Let's start there, because we saw recently the cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline, which goes from Canada to the U.S. We know that fracking is going to be limited to some capacity. We don't know how much based on the current administration. I don't want to get political here because I want to show people how to make money off of this. But does this worry you in terms of it took us so long to get energy independent? Could this, bring us back a few steps? Are you worried at all about that?
Well, I don't know, whether it how far, how much this impedes us. I mean, it's frustrating because just at a time when the U.S., had broken free from, its dependence on imported oil, for instance, and began to be an exporter, just at the time when we became, a global player on the natural gas front. We're now moving in the direction of people saying, well, we can't let that happen. So what we need to do is impede the infrastructure development that would allow the U.S. to, really take advantage of these gains. And, to me, as is the case with so many things in life, if you cut off one avenue, something else will happen. And most likely it'll be less, favorable from an environmental standpoint. I think you may have seen, Energy Transfer Partners are running ads right now that point out that if you let pipelines happen, you maintain, the sort of scenic, settings and the pastoral backdrops and so on. But if you cut off, pipelines, then you have more, trucks on the road carrying fuel. You have more rail cars carrying, so it's a trade-off, and that's what will happen. I don't think it means that there'll be no place, no way to transport fuel. It'll just mean that we'll find alternatives, and they may not be any more. In fact, they may be less advantageous environmentally than the pipelines. But it's consistent with, I think, the policies most people anticipated a Biden administration would enact on these issues.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, it could be expected, is what they campaigned on. But when it comes to the individual companies, oil and gas, we'll talk about here, because I know you've sat on the board in some of these big companies before. I don't know if you're still on the board of some of them, but I'm sure you have your ear to the ground here. I mean, it has to result in their spending, their CapEx spending, right? Like just moving in different directions. I mean, it has to impact them, right? Because
how would there's headlines every day almost about, the reduction in CapEx and the, consequent impact on earnings for these companies. And, that probably means, that there'll be globally a reduction in product, which means that, if not tomorrow, soon enough, you're going to see, the supply inadequate to meet demand, and you're going to then start seeing, the prices go up, which will precipitate people spending more on CapEx. But in the short term, I think it means probably higher prices for oil. We're now in the 50s, and and it likely will go higher than that as these CapEx, cutbacks, take even fuller hold. But, you mentioned energy independence, and the thing that's kind of disappointing to me is that even though we've acquired, through the development of horizontal drilling and fracking and so on, the capacity to meet demand here in our country for oil, and we've got abundant natural gas, at the same time, we still are very dependent on the importation of another key ingredient, uranium, which is the feedstock for our nuclear fleet that produces 20% of our electricity. And I think there's one thing I would hope the parties could all agree on is that we don't want to continue to be as dependent as we are on imported uranium. Today, that percentage is about 99%. And given the defense needs that we have for uranium, as well as the civilian power plant needs, this is an area of energy independence that truly needs our attention for a long period of time, or else we're going to find ourselves at the mercy of exporters who may turn the tables on us down the road.
And I'm glad we're talking about uranium here, clean energy. It seems like this has bipartisan support, right? I mean, this is one of the few things that we have bipartisan support on. Even with the latest initiative, I think it went through the U.S. Senate Committee on Appropriations, where we're looking at $1.5 billion a year, 10-year uranium reserve to purchase newly found uranium in the U.S. I mean, this seems like everything's a go here. I guess what's the initiation for this? How does this get started?
Well, first, it's $150 million a year to develop this uranium reserve. And now it's in the hands of the Department of Energy, I think, to really develop the program. I mean, what the program would hopefully be is a competitive, transparent process by which the government would accept bids from U.S. producers to sell the U.S. government a certain amount of uranium at a certain price. And I think if it's a fair and open process, it helps to incentivize that industry, which is in great need right now of some momentum. What we've seen happen over the last 10 plus years is that state-owned uranium mining companies in places like Russia and Kazakhstan have flooded the international market with underpriced uranium because they've got state subsidies maintaining these operations, and that's in turn put free enterprise mining operations out of business because they simply can't operate at the prices that these FSU countries and Russia are willing to produce uranium and sell uranium at, and so. Hopefully, by building a reserve, we can start to increase the sale of domestic product, and that, combined with what I think will be a growing global demand for uranium, may start to put the market back in shape.
Yeah, and it's amazing that this finally passed, right? And I think it's 1.5 billion for 10 years, and you're at 150 million, I think, a year. When I look at the dynamics of this, where we're one of the largest consumers of uranium, yet why, and it's a tough question, I don't know if you can answer this, but why did it take every U.S. producer to basically shut down before something like this passes? I mean, there's no one producing. Now it's going to change now with this change, but I mean, how come it gets that far?
Well, and even the change itself, I mean, $150 million a year, even if it was all spent buying uranium from domestic producers at a fair price, at a free market price, wouldn't be enough to put everybody on easy street. I mean, these companies could at least start to begin operations again. But it's been ignored, in my opinion, by too many policymakers for too long. And part of the reason that we got into this position was that after the fall of the Soviet Union, the U.S., in an effort to try to address non-proliferation problems in the FSU and in Russia itself, was willing to buy down-blended weapons-grade uranium to use in our power plants. So we began to look to Russia to supply our uranium for power plants, and then we saw the state-owned companies in like places that I mentioned earlier undercut the market price. Why it took so long is frankly frustrating to me, because a year and a half ago, I think it was, the Department of Commerce actually came to the conclusion that these companies were undercutting the U.S. development of uranium, and that because it was a critical material with national security implications, that we ought to impose some domestic buying quotas. But the White House, the Trump White House, chose not to go down that road. Had they done so, I think we'd already be in much better shape, because that proposal would have required 25% of the uranium used in our domestic nuclear plants to come from America. So we kind of let it go. And again, we got to 99% dependency on uranium. We were upset when we
Insane.
were 60% dependent on oil. We thought that was catastrophic and damaging the national interest. So it is a disappointment that we're where we are today, and it needs to be it needs to continue to be a priority for U.S. national security policy.
Now, being former Secretary of Energy, Mr. Secretary, you could probably get a job almost any place you want within the energy industry, but you are currently chairman of Uranium Energy, right? So what do you see with Uranium Energy that separates it? Again, this is a U.S. producer, and this just passed recently, so they're well positioned. But why UEC compared to almost any place else that you can go to?
Well, I had worked on these issues as secretary, trying to develop more domestic uranium and uranium enrichment capacity, because the fuel cycle for the nuclear power fleet was clearly, and this is 20 years ago when I took office, was clearly very dependent on imports. We didn't even have a domestic enrichment facility in the U.S. that was using modern technology to produce civilian nuclear reactor grade uranium. And so it was something I worked on. Then when I left government, it was something I kept my eye and interest on. And finally, it turned out just through, the course of my regular business activities that I got to know UEC and was ultimately offered the chance to be a member of that board. And I took it as much because of my interest in this national security challenge as any other faction.
Yeah. So now that you're chairman, do you tell Amir Adnani what to do? Or does he tell you what to do? You don't have to answer that. But I'm good friends with Amir for over 10 years. And
he's a very able guy. And
yeah, it's incredible.
Come to be very, good friends with him, but also come to respect deeply his business skills. And hopefully I bring a little bit to the table in terms of the regulatory side of the issues that we deal with.
I definitely think you do. So just let's turn from uranium into clean energy, right? ExxonMobil just reported, and they said that they are starting a new clean initiative division, and every single company is making it publicly aware. They're putting out statements. It just almost seems over the top a little bit, but are we going to go too far to one side where I think most Americans, and I could be wrong on this, really believe, in climate change, right? So we want to do everything we can to help the environment, but yeah, I mean, you're looking at solar, you're looking at wind, you're looking at electric batteries. I mean, is there anything there that really that you're interested in? Because I know that you're interested in some of these technologies, including I believe it was hydrogen fuel cells. But talk about some of the other clean energies, and because that market's really taken off in terms of stocks, and I just want to get your opinion.
I think here's where you're at. You've got definitely great concerns on the part of large numbers of Americans in the environment and in the impact of CO2 emissions and so on. And my experience is that there's a lot of political support for that up to a point. And that's the point when people start either losing their jobs or being unable to afford their energy that they have to purchase, whether it's electricity for their homes or gas for their cars or so on. And that's not just true in the clean energy area, it's the truth across the board. I mean, Americans have a certain amount of their budget for energy, and if it starts to be inadequate, they're going to push back. So I think that the clean energy movement is going to be successful in a number of these areas. I think you mentioned one, hydrogen, that I worked a lot on as secretary, and I know it's starting to really have a comeback in terms of being an important component in terms of hydrogen fuel cells in terms of things like transportation. But there does need to be, a sort of, I guess I would say, a realistic approach as well. And the realistic approach has to take into account the time between where we are today and where we, when it will really be possible for some of these technologies and clean energy sources to replace the existing sources. I mean, I think they can in the interim, begin to take a bigger share of the market, but that's why nuclear is so important, because we need a a clean alternative way to to provide base load power before these renewables can really pick up a big enough part of the energy responsibility. And nuclear is the one area that doesn't emit and can take base load responsibility. But I think a lot of these are going to do well over time, and they're becoming more economical and therefore more realistic as energy alternatives.
Yeah, no, and just guys out, base load is 24 hours where, wind, solar. I mean, you need the wind to blow, you need the sun to be out, solar. But for nuclear, it's 24-hour base load. But I want to ask you a question because you're from Michigan, and Jennifer Granholm, who is now the current Secretary of Energy, is also from Michigan. So is there like a Michigan connection there? Do you guys know each other at all? And
yeah, we do. And I think she'll be a very strong leader for the department. We were in office in Michigan. We overlapped for a couple of years when I was in the Senate and she was the Attorney General. And I've spoken to her since her nomination, and I think she's definitely ready to give her all to the job, and I wish her well.
Yeah, and she was saying that oil, coal, obviously this isn't going to go away quick, and gas, but and she was favored alternative energy. She said all the right things during the hearing. I'm going to ask you a tough question. When I see the current administration saying that they want to have zero carbon emissions by 2050, is that something that's actually achievable? I mean, we're talking such a long time out, but to me, like you said, there's a sacrifices. Like if you don't have pipeline, you're going to have trucks. You're going to have, it's going to be alternatives.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I don't know, on what basis that kind of goal is set. I mean, when people set goals that far away, they're really, none of them are going to be around to be held accountable. And so, I did some of that when I was in office myself, when we kind of got a, hydrogen revolution, but it was going to be well past the point when my, term was over. So I think it's a as to whether it's achievable, obviously it's going to take, significant developments of new technology, I think, for that to happen. We have great hopes for things like, batteries and other storage approaches, or systems for energy to work. If they do, that makes it a lot more achievable, because right now, when the sun is shining brightly, you're often producing more energy and electricity than you can use. So if you can find a way to store it and keep it for long periods of time, then that's, that helps you to address, to meet these kinds of goals. So we'll see. Certainly, it's the direction we're moving in. And as I said, the break will be, I think, the cost and the dislocation issues. And again, Americans, I think, given their choice, are going to pick a cleaner environment, CO2 reductions, et cetera, until it starts to be a significant impact on them financially or otherwise. And so they've got to sort of work this in tandem, making sure that these steps forward are not, in one way or another going to shift public opinion negatively.
No, it definitely makes a lot of sense. And I mean, we covered a lot of areas. I appreciate it coming on. I think that the one last question, this one's the most important. I'm assuming that you're a football fan, since you're from Michigan. Who do you got for the Super Bowl on Sunday?
Buccaneers.
Who do you have?
Yeah, well, Tom Brady went to the University of Michigan, so I've got some loyalties. Even though I didn't go to the University of Michigan, but I think the odds makers favor the Chiefs, and certainly they've been almost unstoppable. But Brady seems to know how to win in the Super Bowl, and so it'll be great. I hope it'll be as good a game as the Patriots-Chiefs game, the AFC Championship game 2 years ago, where he and Mahomes went head-to-head, and it went right down to the wire and into overtime. And so for those of us who've been largely shut in our homes here for months, we'll make this Sunday a little bit more exciting than the usual one.
Yeah, I hope it's a good game. 3 points. I thought it'd be more. The fact it's 3, I think it's going to be a lot closer than everybody thinks. So hopefully,
increase may be a factor too, because Each team has a couple of guys I think that are questionable, and depending on who can really play on Sunday, may have a big impact. Because if both the defensive backs for the Buccaneers are out, those young safeties that can't play, that's going to definitely help the Chiefs.
No, absolutely, absolutely. A football fan talking about the linebackers and everything. I love it. So I'm looking forward to Sunday. I'm hoping for a good game. I'm a big football fan. And Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I know how busy you are, and it really means a lot. I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm such an idiot. Spencer from Michigan should have figured out the Brady connection. Again, if you're watching podcast, we'll try to plug on YouTube. You'll notice that I have a black shirt on during the interview because now I have the Brady jersey back on because, I'm interviewing the Secretary of State. I'm like, these guys could be stuffy or whatever, but let me tell you, he was cool and everything. Cool. Really, really cool. I mean, and I asked him a football question. I had no idea if he watches football or not. So, but I still should have put 2 and 2 together and that he was going to root for Brady since he's from Michigan. But, Spencer was just a really, really cool guy, down to earth. And usually I have conversations before and after, and we joke around after, and he loved the interview, and he said he's going to mess with Amir, right? Because Amir, it's his company, and now he's chairman of the board, and I was joking around, does he answer from Amir? Amir answers from him or whatever. And he said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to call him right now. I'm going to mess with him. I'm going to text him because I'm going to say, I thought that guy Frank was your friend. He asked me to explain your strengths and weaknesses of working with you. And I said, all right, I'll go through with it. So it's funny because, we taped that earlier. So, yeah, but he's just, he likes messing with people and just a great guy, great interview. And thanks so much. I mean, because of you, we're getting the, Secretary of Energy. I mean, next week's going to be another amazing interview. Mark Randolph, co-founder of Netflix. I mean, some really big high profile names are coming on because our downloads are doing great. And, I just want to say thank you. I'm going to continue to put on some great people in front of you. And, get back Spencer real quick. That wasn't about politics. Whether you agree with clean energy initiatives, climate change, fracking, it's about positioning yourself in the right areas that you see or you believe where the most money is going to flow to due to these new policies. I agree with Spencer. New policies are going to push oil prices higher. Just the beginning of this, we've seen over the past couple months, oil's going higher and higher and higher. But just someone who's very, very connected and who really believes in the uranium industry. And, that industry, I'm so happy for so many of you. I know I covered it for a long time. You guys have been in it for a long time and see some of these stocks really moving higher. It's, it's really cool. I love to see you guys making money. But thank you so much, Secretary Spence, for coming on the podcast. And again, I always say this podcast is about you, right? It's not about me. So let me know what you thought of that interview. Frank at CurzioResearch.com. That's Frank at CurzioResearch.com. Now, let's get to some of the news this week with Daniel Creech, Senior Research Analyst, Curzio Research. It's been crazy, right? The news flow. I love earnings season, as crazy as it is, but still, you got the Robinhood thing going on. You had some amazing earnings from some of these big guys that reported. And, MicroStrategy, right? You got MicroStrategy buying more Bitcoin, which is, insane. I think it's over like $2.5 billion that's worth. But let's cover some of these things. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us, man. What's going on?
Hey, thanks. Hey, happy Wednesday, Wall Street Unplugged. We got a lot to rock and roll about this week. This is good stuff.
Yeah, and I came in with the Brady jersey on. He's like, whoa. He's like,
this is nothing. I had to play golf with him. We're in the whole damn thing one round.
Yeah, I went golf. That's what he gave me. I said, all right, I'll wear the podcast. But I actually wore.
What is it? That's a bet with you lost a bet to a friend, or that's how you got the jersey, right?
Yeah, that's how I got the jersey.
Okay.
And it's funny, I didn't really lose. I lost that bet, but we won. We did good, man. We won. It was a pretty good league. I think we won. I think it paid out like $1,000 or something like that for the winner. But Brady really killed it, man, and it was great. It's unfortunately I got to wear this jersey now. Again, I'll break this down later on. But Daniel, let's talk about what's going on with. Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff with Robinhood here. I know that you heard my Portnoy. Have these guys have to take responsibility, and I know you have a different opinion than that. So let's start there. What's going on? Because we saw a lot of these big guys get out of their positions now, right? And these little guys, yet you also hear them say, hold the line, hold what line? It's pretty crazy out there. I don't know. It's not that they have the responsibility, but they do have the responsibility. But still, people have to do their own research. But it's when you have an influential person telling you what to do, now you're losing money. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I totally understand what you mean on the influencing part and maybe getting some people in. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you have the conversation long enough, I think you got to get to the realization that, hey, if you went ahead and made the order and you bought it, you were taking on risk whether you knew that or not. And it's like you point to, this is going to be a great. Um, this is I hate to use the word fascinating, but this is fascinating to me from a lot of different angles. And like you've talked about in the past, this is going to be a great thing for younger investors because the best thing you can do is lose. I don't want to say wiped out as in wiped out, not being able to get back up and try again, but to get that gut feeling, to get that emotional feeling of loss, and it sucks. It's terrible. And you don't have to buy a stock and lose money to get that same feeling. But I do think that's going to happen. But that's normal. Are some people going to get pissed off and say screw trading or screw investing altogether? Yeah, probably. There's percentages of people in there. That's okay. Are some going to learn from it and maybe go on to be very successful? Absolutely. Those all fit in the same funnel. And I think that's, ultimately, I think that's really good overall. To your point, yeah, I understand. And I'm not going to say I'm completely up to speed on this because if you go through any of the Reddits or tweets, I mean, they're happening so fast and you got millions of, if not, you got hundreds of thousands of people on the Reddit Wall Street Bets, if not millions. So I don't want to act like I'm completely up to date, but to my knowledge, Portnoy was never in GameStop. He was buying AMC and all that kind of stuff. And yeah,
Nokia.
If you only know him from the trading, I guess I could lean a little bit more towards why you understand the responsibility. But if you know him, if you ever check, like, do you check his Barstool Sports app at all, or have you ever seen any of his commentary on gambling? So he's like a Donald Trump. He is out front saying, hey, I'm rich. This is what I do. You do your own thing. I can bet 100 grand here or there. You can't. So I got to respect him for he seems to be very consistent on my point. And that's why I have to stop at the responsible side. But I give you influential. And if people are losing money because they're, on him, they're going to get pissed at him. He's dealing with blowbacks. He's getting called a suit. And I'm sure that people think that he made money and got out. But supposedly he lost a bunch of money. Now he's back in as of this morning in certain stocks. So the saga continues.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's good for the markets. I mean, he's everywhere now. He has a big following, and he's gotten a lot of young people on. But again, there's just a responsibility. Like, I hate when people go on TV and they'll say something and they'll never come back on again. At least he's going to come up and follow up and say, hey, I lost this, I lost money, which I respect. But there's no accountability out there, right? And I think people lose sight of the fact that when you're on TV, CNBC, Fox News, whatever, business news, there's tons of people watching you and listening to your advice and are going to take their money, their personal money, and invest it according to what you're saying. Yeah, that's one of the things I loved about Jim Cramer, where, working with him, it was really difficult. But, when he got things wrong on TV, he was throwing shit. He was pissed and he wanted to stay away from him. But I like that. Like, he understood the responsibility. He understood that, wow, I just lost people money. And I don't know if he understands that yet, but I know, some of these bets aren't working out for him, and he's been fantastic the past 6 months, but I don't know. I hope he continues doing what he's doing. I know that he wants everyone following to make a lot of money, and that's a good thing, but sometimes things backfire a little bit, and a lot of guys have been holding GameStop right now and getting the shit kicked out of them. It's pretty crazy, but let's stick with the same subject, but move on from that is Robinhood, because Robinhood went on TV and said, we're okay. We're perfectly okay, right? No, these are requirements. And then, a couple days later, they raised over $2 billion, $3 billion. And, well, they're saying, well, we were required to the right, like, you went on TV the week before last week and said that, no, everything's okay. And this wasn't our fault. We're not we didn't make a call to Citadel or anything like that. But now, these guys needed to raise money, and, that now that they postponed their IPO indefinitely because, they're losing tons of accounts right now. And there's a lot of investigations being launched on them.
Yeah, and lawsuits, investigations, and class action lawsuits. I know those are getting popular. I read somewhere that this is going to be a movie. Did you see that? It was,
yeah.
And no doubt it could be and should be, for a couple different reasons. It'd be a lot like any other Wall Street movie,
Portnoy wants Bradley Cooper to play him.
There you go. Who doesn't like Bradley?
They all
Bradley
know.
Cooper?
Kramer mentioned it. If you need me,
oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can do what's it called, cameos or whatever.
Yeah.
The Robinhood thing, I think. Let me defend the Goldman Sachs here real quick, because as you know, they were getting ready to do the IPO, initial public offering, take Robinhood public, and they had nothing but momentum. especially before this GameStop. They were growing users. I think they added over 3 million last year alone. They were changing the game. They were making other huge brokerage follow their lead to zero commission trading and all that kind of stuff. So they had all this momentum. You bring in Goldman Sachs and every other Wall Street banker that's going to take them public. And what do you do when you're starting from the finish line, from the start line to the finish line, Frank? You piss off millions of people and lock them out. So in defense of the big greedy banks, man, I feel sorry for you.
It is crazy. It is, yeah.
Because the IPO is now on the back burner, and Goldman's, somebody bought a Ferrari with a bonus coming up. Now they're pissed, and
there's tons of people. They're moving to the Cash App on Square, who benefited. There's another company just raised $125 million, which is another free trading platform. I mean, talk about millions of people just getting off the account because they're so pissed off. They may come back or whatever,
yeah, absolutely.
But it's just the way this went down, where it's the first time in the history of the markets where you said we halted stocks because you're not allowing people to buy them, right? It was different with short selling, and sometimes when you look at banks who are on margin or institutions, you could destroy, and they have so many again, the whole financial system would have collapsed if they continued after they let Lehman fail. I didn't want them, but they had to bail out, or our unemployment rate probably still 25% today.
Yeah, and the craziest thing with Robinhood here is Vlad, and I might be butchering that, but like you said, he went on TV and said, "Oh no, we weren't under pressure from anybody." Then he wrote an op-ed, I believe it was in USA Today. It's been published all over. But the crazy thing to me is that you're either the worst PR, bad communicators, and you made a dumbass decision at the worst time to make everybody mad.
Why did they make that? Like, if it was. That's the thing, a full day, though.
I know. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Went by without them saying that the reason why they shut these accounts down and put restriction on. They did not say it the whole entire day. If they would have came in and said it right away, I don't understand that.
Or at least said it beforehand before they limited stuff. And that's what I'm saying. It's either the worst public relations, communications, screw up in a long time, or there's a bunch of shady stuff going on behind the scenes, and their settlements and or trades and or whatever behind the inner workings of this Wizard of Oz isn't going well. So the funny thing is that if you keep asking those questions and go up, because then the CEO of Robinhood came out and said, hey, no hedge fund, because Citadel and Point72, who not loaned them, but put money into Melvin Capital, which, did you cover how much Melvin Capital lost? Did you see the figures?
I didn't see the figures yet. I know it was.
It was a $12.5 billion hedge fund.
Was it like 5 or something?
They lost 53%.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, over $5 billion in January alone with that short squeeze.
Just them, because I thought it was 53% the whole.
Just
fund
the Melvin
was down,
Capital,
not just the GameStop position. But yeah, that's.
So Point72 and Citadel. Citadel fulfills or gets a lot of the orders from the Robinhood trading app. So he had to come out, Vlad, and say, hey, it wasn't Citadel, because that was a lot of rumors, and Portnoy was on that, and everybody was yelling and pissed off, rightly so. But who to be pissed off at? So they said it was clear. It was the clearinghouse. The Robinhood CEO Vlad came out and said it was the clearinghouse. Now, most people probably don't know, and if you want to go down a rabbit hole here, we're going to get down a rabbit hole, Frank. The Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, DTCC.
That's a story now. Yeah, and I'm glad they're looking at this.
Well, and hopefully they will. I don't think that they will, because there's two avenues to go here. One, you can just bury it, because it's basically the monopoly that controls all the settlement and all the trades. I know Frank's had experience with this, but if you go back to 2008, remember our old friend Patrick Byrne from Overstock when we recommended that?
Yep.
So Patrick Byrne, CEO, founded Overstock, is no longer there. He's on the other side of the world. He's kind of just hiding out.
I don't even know where he is now.
He's interesting, but he has a website, and it is it Deep Capture. And back in 2008, 2009, and I remember seeing this, and I was interested in this because he was always arguing that the crash in 2008, 2009, yes, was due to leverage and stupidity, but it was also a big settlement issue. And he has a lot of negative things to say about the DTCC and the ownership of that and how it operates. I don't think anybody's going to look into that nearly the way they should. I think the heat's going to come down on either hedge funds and Robinhood, and you're going to have a lot of regulatory limitations put on individual investors, which I think is a bad deal. But go to Deep Capture, read a little bit about the DTCC, who owns all the stocks and settlement, who owns all the certificates. It's a wild Wizard of Oz story, but it's just ironic that retail brokerage and retail investors brought all this into the limelight. So we'll see where we go.
So it's called like T+2, where it takes 2 days to clear some of this. So that means, if you're looking at clearinghouse, they settle trading accounts, clear trades. maintain margins, delivery, regulated delivery, your reports trade data and stuff like that. But settling these trades, this is why it's a big deal, because this happened to me. So if you notice, in our promotions, we say Frank Holmes got me into a company called Hive Technologies, right? And someone dropped out and I got in, and this was before the market really took off for crypto. So it's like, I think it was like late 2017. And I said, sure, I'm in. And then it was, $25,000. I think it was, he got me in 25 cents. So I had 100,000 shares. Crypto went crazy, and these guys mined for Ethereum and Bitcoin. So the stock went to $6, right? I don't know, 25 cents, $6. And there's like a 4-month lockup period. So the shares at the clearinghouse, right? You got to go through this whole thing. Like, try you there at the clearinghouse, and the lockup period ends. So this stock is 6, it goes to 5, it goes to 4. All these guys are shorting it, right? Shorting it, selling it, and shorting the shit out of it, right? And I called my broker up, who's a great broker, and I said, dude, how come I don't have the shares yet? He's like, it took 2 weeks. And I told him, I said, by them having the shares, meaning that in order to short, you have to be able to lend the shares out. They have to be someplace. And in the clearinghouse, within that period, they could be short. And that's a big deal 2 days when you're looking at look at the 2-day moves that you saw. I think, what was it, 2 days ago? Wasn't GameStop at 250? I mean, went from 350 to 250, now it's 90. I mean, 2 days is a big deal. And finally, I was able to get out of that stock. You know what? I got out at $1.80. I'm not complaining. It's amazing. But, I was calling him at...
I'd be complaining.
At 354. I bitched to him, but 354, we're talking about a lot of money that I wound up having to get out at $1.80. But, these are issues. And I talked about this being a revolution where this is... you saw, what is it? Dan Loeb said he has no short positions. You saw in January... he's usually short something, right? Whatever.
Yep.
You had Citron Research said without publishing these, or publishing reports, they're still going to be shorting, I guess, but they're not going to be publishing, meaning they're not going to do that whole marketing campaign they do. But it is having big changes, and let's see what happens from it. But I will tell you that as of now, GameStop is in the 90s, and again, I think it's going to go. It could go high before it goes low, but it will go low. AMC is down for to $8 now. Again, AMC, I think, is an insolvent business. Hopefully that they make it. They did get a little bit of funding, which started this move, and then, the short squeeze and everything. But it is pretty crazy, man. It's just, it continues, and it's not going away anytime soon. But I want to turn the attention.
Hold on real quick. Can I add one more thing? Because I think the real issue here is just what you said. And I wish that the investigation would lead to, is there naked short selling, which means you're selling stuff you don't have possession of, which is entirely illegal by rule.
Yeah.
It's supposedly not to be able to be done. There's been tons of cases with companies and short sellers going back and forth with hedge funds, especially 2008, 2009. That's the real issue and what we should be looking at. What I fear is that the issue will be turned and blamed on hedge funds and shorting, because people shorting something isn't bad. It's not. No, it's not wrong. It's not illegal. For the market. It's a market. Yeah.
You're hedging yourself. You can hedge yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. It's not that evil shorts are. Do they do shady shit a lot? Yes, and that's when you should get them and punish them.
I mean, they're shorting 2 companies that got hurt from the lockdown, right? I mean, GameStop has stores, right? That's not an online operator, but they have stores, and you have AMC. So it's almost like these companies, fire employees, and that's a lot to the Reddit crowd who's saying that you're destroying companies that are being forced to close, and you pile it on, and you don't give a shit.
Right.
So,
but this, I mean, like I said, I am taking a side here on this one, because it's not the coronavirus and the shutdown didn't change these business models and drive them out. AMC, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, AMC.
But GameStop, I mean, that was going downhill, or until they turn it around, or it's just going to slowly bleed out. But the big thing there, I think, should be looked at is the naked short selling and all that kind of stuff. But I fear it's going to get turned to hedge funds, and then the little guys are going to have more restrictions on trading, i.e. us, and that's going to be a bummer. But we'll see how it unfolds.
No, we'll definitely see how it unfolds here. And all right, so I want to talk about a couple other things. Bitcoin gained some steam again at 35,000, and you had MicroStrategy come out. So MicroStrategy is the one that uses its cash balance, and they're buying Bitcoin. They've been dead right on it, right? So they just bought another $10 million worth. They paid an average price of $33,800, which is close where it is today, showing you that this isn't a short-term investment. He truly believes that Bitcoin is going to replace gold as a store of value. That's his thought, right? He's not buying it for that. It's a currency. He corrected, I forgot who went after, I don't know if Steve Forbes or whoever said, what MicroStrategy is doing. And it's not, he said, no, it's not going to ever replace the dollar. He said, it's the alternative for gold. It's going to take all the money away. That's why he's buying it. So they now own 71,079 Bitcoins, right? At the current price, That's roughly $2.5 billion, which is 40% of their entire market cap. I mean, this is becoming like a pure play, right? Not a software company, nothing like that. But and another thing, we could talk about that MicroStrategy, but and then I want to talk about something that everyone focuses on cryptocurrency and they look at Bitcoin. You got to look at Ethereum, right? Biggest smart contract maker. They're coming out with Ethereum 2.0 to address a lot of things that doesn't function as fast as it should, and be able to do as many transactions as some of the alternatives. But this thing is now broke out 1,500. I mean, we have this in our portfolio at what's the price? I don't even know. It's
you're gonna put me on the spot. I don't.
You could bring it up, but it's this was something that was $120 not long ago, and 1,500 broke through its all-time highs. Right. And it's kind of amazing. You're seeing this. It's not just Bitcoin, guys. So, you need to understand cryptos. You need to understand you could buy a lot of these things through Coinbase, a lot of large ones. But, some of our positions have really that crypto intelligence newsletter. If I knew the positions would be like that, I would have quit my job and just, bought all those and not worried about it. But again, we were down on some of these positions, 2 years ago. But now, all these things are up tremendously. Right.
Yeah. The moves have been incredible. And you're starting to see this build out of the platforms where it makes it a lot easier for the average Joe to buy it in a safe, or at least in quotations around the word safe. Of course, there's risk in everything, but a safety net of buying it in a trusted source. So a lot of people that buy through Square or PayPal, feel a hell of a lot more confident doing that on their cell phone than they would going to either a Coinbase, which is a large name, or a Binance US, or an overseas or whatever. So that is all helping out tremendously. And I'm sure you touched on this a little bit. I know you have in the past, but if a fraction of corporations start even thinking about putting anything into Bitcoin as an asset or a hedge against inflation, man, that thing can go a lot higher. Yeah. The Ethereum is interesting. We're in a $139. We made that in April of 2019. So it's been a couple years, going on 2 years now. But it's up over 850% as of 1,300. Now it's at 1,600. So we're up a lot more than that. Yeah,
it's a 10 bagger for us. I mean, we have a Silvergate Capital, which is these are stocks that we have in this portfolio that are recommended at 12. It went over 100 yesterday. Some of these moves are just, absolutely incredible. And Euphoria Digital is another one. We just recommended it. If at 86 cents, it's over $8, and that was in November. And I'm not just touting. I mean, this.
And like I said, they were, like you said, they were down. Yeah, they were down after we recommended Ethereum. It was down. So
it just shows you when you're looking from a risk reward standpoint, guys. I mean, it makes sense here. It makes sense for that if you're looking for, a lot of people take on risk and they say, hey, I got to take a lot of risk, and I don't care if I lose the $5,000 as long as you turn it to $10,000. No, that's not a good risk if you're going to risk all of your money, right? If you're going to risk all of your money of $5,000 that you put into something, make sure those gains are 3x, 5x, 10x, and that's what crypto offers you if you have the right people, listen to the right people. But yeah, it's kind of amazing to see how crazy this is. But getting back to MicroStrategy, they have a conference today, and I tweeted about this at Frank Curzio. They have a conference today, Daniel, that a ton of people registered. I registered as well. And the CEO came out and said, I've never seen so many CEOs of other companies sign up for this thing. What does that tell you? It tells you that, you're looking at, man, I don't know how much cash is on the balance sheet altogether for S&P 500 companies. What is it? Over 200 billion for Apple.
I was going to say, look at Apple and those guys.
Yeah, but you're looking at these guys just putting 1%, 2%, 3% if they decide to buy Bitcoin. But the fact that so many people are looking at this and you're sitting in cash, zero rates, zero everything. He's going over the whole conference. It's really cool. He goes over like the legal aspects. He goes over, he's going to have like 5 or 6 different sessions. And it's just really cool. I'll try to bring it up for you guys to show it to you, but it just shows the interest, right, Daniel, in Bitcoin from corporations, institutions now, right? That's why it's a different ball game. It's not just, regular folks or young folks getting in it. You're seeing people, even
Absolutely.
Some of the biggest hedge funds talk about it, right?
Yeah, and that's really the cool thing for me from just a maturing standpoint as a fan of history and capital markets and things like that, just to see it expand. So obviously, there's no argument that the big difference here in the run-up to new highs versus a few years ago in 2017 is a lot more institution and big money getting in, like corporations. And another fun thought is, it's not a far stretch. Let's say you're Apple, Frank, or Microsoft, Google, or anybody with a lot of cash right now in a 0% interest rate world. When it is advantageous for you as a owner or a allocator of capital in a position of management or CEO of a company, and you have a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders to do what's best. When it is advantageous for you, Frank, to take out debt and buy back stock and or pay dividends, like Apple and the big guys are doing. When you live in that kind of an environment and you have hundreds of billions of dollars, explain to me what the risk is on putting $1 billion or $2 billion in Bitcoin as a hedge against silly policies that make it advantageous for you to take out borrowed money and buy stock and pay dividends with.
And that's all you do.
And I don't think that's a big stretch.
No, I don't think it's a big stretch.
And that's why I don't want to get too bullish near all-time highs, because it's so much easier to get bullish and more bullish as things are going in the momentum and in whatever way they're going. Works for bearishness too. Like you always point, market will drop 30% and bears come out and say it's going down another 50 from here, you know. But that'll be interesting on that management on his conference call. And I just don't think it's a hard stretch. So I think there's going to be a ton of volatility between now and then. But as more things open up and more people realize and get more money given to them to gamble with and have fun and do whatever, expect silliness and volatility.
Yeah, I have it up now at MicroStrategy world.now, the futures now, February 3rd, 4th, today and tomorrow. You can register for free. Again, I'm not promoting this, but I registered because, again, I want to learn more about this, just like we all want to learn more about this, right? I'm very familiar with Bitcoin, but I'm not familiar with the laws around Bitcoin, which he's going to cover. Bitcoin for corporations, create shareholder value, improve your products, grow your company. He goes over the legal aspects. I mean, this is really, really cool. But the fact that, you also, the CEO, Michael Saylor, is going to be on with a lot of other great people and have roundtables. That's, the expensive one. That's a premium pass. But it's just amazing how quickly this is getting adopted by institutions. It took a little while, but now it just makes sense. It really does. I could see some of these companies that they're looking to do it. And not only that, from a corporation, look at the companies who got into Bitcoin. Look at their stock prices. Look at PayPal. Yeah. Look at Square. Look at Silver Lake Capital. Look at Voyager. Right.
Look at MicroStrategy.
Hive. Look at MicroStrategy. Look where the stock went. So
you got to give Horowitz credit. We shorted that in the Dollar Stock Club. Got out for a small gain in a week or two, and thank goodness we did. I think our price was $577 that we got out for a small gain. It's $732 today.
You know what? I don't know if I want to give him full credit because on Wednesday he said that, and that was the pick on Wednesday. And Wednesday it went up tremendously, and Thursday is when we publish our report on it, and we say, well, now it's really up a lot. Let's use this pick, and we did. And
timing is everything. That's all right.
So thank you, Andrew, for that pick. I don't
but to your point, MicroStrategy's gone from basically 577 to 730 in the last few trading days.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to cover here is that the earnings between Amazon and Google. I mean, I don't know if you've seen these big guys report, but it is absolutely insane. The numbers that they're blowing these numbers out, blowing these numbers out. It's going to continue, but I know you've been covering it well, Daniel, right?
Well, I just I don't have all the details in front of me. I've been really bullish on the bigger names, simply for the change in policies and what I think is going to come down. We've been going back and forth a few times over the past several weeks. I think any weakness that you see on the headlines around breaking them up or monopolies or taxes over in Europe and in other countries, when people are even here in Florida. I always screw it up. What is his name? DeSantis?
DeSantis, yeah.
Yeah. He's threatening to fine, big tech if they find to be censoring elected officials, like something like $100,000 a day and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, these guys just have unbelievable businesses. Everybody uses them. Frank and I was talking to you about, I know a ton of people that are upset about Facebook for a number of different reasons. But you know what? They still get on every day, a couple times a day, and chat or post stuff or talk to their friends through it. So Google, when you're $2 trillion companies and multi-trillion, I think Google's probably between one. Is it still one? Okay. I think Microsoft's over 2 now. I know Apple's over 2 now.
Apple's over 2, yeah.
These guys are still growing revenues by 20% and more. And multi-billion-dollar divisions like Amazon said their run rate for Amazon Web Services, AWS, is $50 billion a year now.
And that's the guy, you know, Jeff Bezos stepped down. The guy who's running it is the
Well,
guy
he stepped up.
I mean, yeah, basically. He's executive chairman means you're more hands off and everyone's just going to report to you now. You know, what's focused on other things. It's not a negative because the guy's taking over is the guy who.
Hey, here's what we're going to do. Okay. I'm the new CEO.
Clout.
Here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Jeff, you okay with that? Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and that guy's really good that's taken over for him. So he's not getting as much attention as he deserves. That's, you know, the reason why that cloud business is so big. But, you know, just to show you guys some numbers here, which is kind of funny. You know, this is from briefing.com. Again, a site I use, whatever. If you want to get it. It's a little expensive, but it's, you know, pretty cool. Just highlights everything for you. Right here, just highlighting this. I mean, crush earnings percent forecast. This is Google. By its largest margin over 5 years, $22 a share compared to, you know, $15.98, whatever. Revenue growth ramping 23.5% compared to the expectations of 13% growth. A lot of times you see earnings really beat. They cost cut. They do different things. It's the sales. If you're able to see those sales, now you're seeing sales increase. You saw the same thing with Facebook. You've seen the same thing with Apple. You've seen the same thing with Amazon. All these numbers are absolutely incredible. And, you know, what does this filter down to, Daniel? It filters down to, as much as everybody hates these companies as crazy they are, they know everything about every one of us because these are the sites that they know what we search for. They know what we buy. They know where we're going. And with algorithms and AI and all this stuff and 5G making it 100 times faster to figure this stuff out, they're able to predict what we're going to do when we're going to do it right now. It's insane. It's something I follow for over 10 years now. And this was going on 7, 8, 9 years ago. Think about where we are now compared to then. But corporations are going to pay a freaking fortune for this. If they could increase the money they're spending, the advertising spend, right? Return on advertising, they're going to do it. So they'll spend more money, but their results and their margins are incredible because, you know, you're not doing a commercial on TV where you really don't know who the hell's watching. And here's guys that, hey, you know, Walmart, whoever, here's like people in your stores right now. What do you want to send them? You know, you can't beat that. And people will continue to pay a fortune for it. So, yeah, it goes to the point where these companies aren't going away anytime soon. Even if there's, you know, forced regulation on them, I just think, you know, the amount of stuff they're able to track, and I would say at least 90% of the people who are on these platforms and use these platforms have absolutely no idea what these companies are doing behind the scenes. I mean, you have no idea. I mean, yes, they had a Netflix, you know, the social whatever. They have no idea how much they pay. Just look at your cookies. Next time you pull up a website, go to that little block, right, in your browser. Next to the site, there's a little lock. And just right-click it, and it's going to say cookies in use, and click that, and click site set. These guys everything, every website. There's a reason why it comes up, but you know, this is priceless. Everyone's going to advertise. Same for us. We could figure out who bought a newsletter for over, you know, $500. You know, a group of people through Facebook or Facebook, you know, whatever. You know, in the past couple of months, who, you know, has numerous newsletters. I mean, I'd rather be targeting that crowd than just targeting anybody randomly. And it's just, these things aren't going away anytime soon. And these numbers, man, these analysts, first of all, the analysts got to get up to date with this shit. I mean, you can't be off by 30, 40%. Come on. That's your freaking job, right? You get paid for this shit. Like, those are the numbers. Those are the numbers. Think about that. $13 and they reported 22. How do you get and it's been going on for the last 3 quarters. I mean, are you kidding me? What happens if you have a sell rating on it? If you have a sell rating on it, they just blow it. What are you going to do? Oh, we're going to continue. So, but come on, these analysts got to get better than this. They're horrible. They're useless if you're going to see this activity, blowouts. They got to see it. They got to be tracking this stuff a little bit through, you know, every single month and seeing demand. It's not that difficult, but holy shit, these guys kind of useless right now in these companies.
Yeah. I'll give them a little bit of defense because I understand, and you're right, they have a ton of information and they meet with these guys. So, but they do like Amazon. What do they report on operating income? Do you have it in front of you? And it was versus their own guidance of between like a negative $500 million and $4 billion positive.
Yeah.
So I give them a little leeway because, you know, these companies have so much, they're so successful. Their services are so amazing that so many people use them. They have a lot of leeway on how to, you know, claim revenue, et cetera. So I'm with you, though. I give them a little credit, but
the margins for the companies have gotten wider in terms of not margins, but just the spreads of
their
predictions.
That's a pattern too. I mean, there's a lot of sandbagging going on.
But that happened basically because COVID. But now by this time that COVID is actually benefiting you, right? Companies like Peloton, where you could actually predict a little bit better, where but they're predicting declines or very slow growth. I don't know. I just don't get it. But anyway,
no, I'm with you.
I mean, these companies probably still have much more upside, and companies that are trading at 30 times earnings are now trading at 22, 23 times forward earnings because their earnings exploded and some of these things went up a little bit. Google had like the biggest run, I think, but Apple's starting to move up. Microsoft fell after those amazing results, and now it's starting to move up again, new highs. But there is a rush getting into these large technology companies again, and thanks for helping me cover that, Daniel. I really appreciate it. So, all right, guys. Daniel, thank you so much for coming in and breaking down all these topics for me. Now we're going to get to the fun part. I don't know if you want to stay here for this, Daniel, do you?
No, I'll listen. I don't care about this game, so I'll see what way you persuade me.
The Super Bowl prediction. Guys, again, it's something I've been doing for, I think it's over 10 years. Again, I take out the Eagles one because I went to the game just like, I can't say that the Eagles aren't going to at least cover. I think they were underdog by 5 points and they won the game. But outside of that, last year was the first year I got it right, but it was always like this long-standing joke that just, listen, I'm going to break it down, give you all the information, who's going to win, and then I would lose every single time. So I said, it's a great guarantee. Just do exactly. So let's see what happens this year. Hopefully it's not going to go to a string where I'm right all the time because I want you guys to try to make money off this. But the Bucs and the Chiefs, spreads 3 points. Chiefs are favored. Matchup between the GOAT, greatest of all time, Tom Brady, and someone that could possibly take that title away from 10 years from now, which is Mahomes. It's unbelievable. To me, these are two best teams. And Cleveland must beat KC when Mahomes got hurt. But when I look at these teams, I think these are two teams from their respective divisions, from conferences. So I'm hoping for a good game. You break down Tampa, amazing D, led by Devin White. If you don't know him, he's an absolute freak. Don't ever catch the ball near him because you'll die. That's how hard he hits people. He's amazing. They have great corners. Their front four, Ndamukong Suh, I mean, a lot of people heard of him in controversy how crazy he is. He's a great player. He's like the third best lineman on that defense. Right, Shaq Barrett and JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul. Will Gossen's also good. So, Tampa gets an edge on D over KC. On offense, when I look at the Bucs, their wide receivers, Antonio Brown, who's one of the best receivers ever, before I went a little crazy. I mean, he's like that third best wide receiver. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. You have speedsters, Scotty Miller. You have Tyler Johnson. Guys, remember that name if you can. I know it's crazy if you're a football fan, but I hope this guy gets some playing time. If he does, he's probably going to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl, but he's a future superstar. This kid's amazing, but he's just not getting playing time because these veterans are there. The Bucs offensive line is unbelievable. I mean, I think the average weight of these guys is probably 320 pounds. They have been protecting Brady like crazy all year. They're monsters, especially when they played the Chiefs in Week 12, which Chiefs won by 3 points. Chiefs should have won that game by 3 TDs. Fournette with their running game, unbelievable, right? Fournette just disappeared. He played in Jacksonville. But the last 4 or 5 games, this guy's been lights out, man. He's been awesome. Catching the ball out of the backfield, making plays. That's huge for Brady, who likes to dump his passes off really, really quick, to avoid sacks as much as he can. And if Fournette can come out of the backfield, again, he was a big contributor, probably the X factor in the Bucs winning, those 3 playoff games against Washington, New Orleans, Packers. Brady, an X factor, right? Obviously, I don't have to go into there, but was he 6-3 in Super Bowls, 10 Super Bowls? Unbelievable. But the Bucs have, few weaknesses. They're a really, really good team. Now for the Chiefs, their D hasn't really lived up to expectations until like the last couple of games, but really the last game. I mean, best game by far against the Bills, who I thought had the best team in the league a couple weeks ago, but their top running back went down and they became one-dimensional, passing like crazy. Josh Allen, amazing. But you're looking at their D for the Chiefs, led by Tyrann Mathieu, the best in the business, free safety Sorensen, defensive lineman Frank Clark, Chris Jones, unbelievable. Those are superstars on those teams. So yeah, I believe they match up great to the Bucs. They really do. They match up great to the Bucs, their defense. So that's going to be kind of a wash to me. But on offense, Mahomes is the best of the best. He could throw the ball from anywhere. He throws the ball sideways. You think he's in trouble. I mean, he's hitting, Tyreek Hill, who runs, he's the fastest man on earth, like in stride every single time. I don't know how he does that. And I would say almost never, not in the history of me watching football for 40 years, I never saw a guy pass for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns so easily, like nothing. And outside maybe Dan Marino and, Duper in those days, I mean, it was incredible. But, I mean, you just look, you're like, how many yards? He throws like 300, 350, 400 yards, like nothing. It's like, automatic. I mean, Tyreek Hill, you got, again, fast guy ever. The Bucs gave up 200 yards to him when they played them in Week 12. Yes, these two teams played not long ago, right? 17 weeks to see it play Week 12. And Kelsey, best tight end in the league, also had a good game. They got speedsters like Hardman and Sammy Watkins coming back, who's really good. But breaking down the game here, the one thing that scares me, guys, and I hate saying this with my Brady shirt on, as you get older, there's more pressure put on you. I mean, I look at the Braves pitchers, right? Remember the Braves where you had Glavine, you had, all those guys, man. It's just Maddox, Avery, and, won a couple World Series. And then all of a sudden, they always like choke going. As you get older, there's just more pressures. When you're young, when you're like Mahomes, you think you're the greatest ever. No one's even close to you. You're great. You have that confidence. And as you get old, more doubts creep into your head. And Brady's been absolutely awesome and amazing, right? Over 40, but he played terrible, really, really terrible in the second half against the Packers. He almost gave that game away. That worries me a little bit. That does. I mean, he needs to be at his best. No bad decisions. Now, Week 12, when they played, the Chiefs won at Tampa 27-24. Yeah, it's a game Tyreek Hill had 13 catches for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kelsey had 8 catches for 82 yards. But later in that game, they changed their defense around. Bowles changed defense around, and they caught up and they did well, right? So that's one of the things that, they got destroyed the first 3 quarters. And that last quarter, they figured it out of how they got to stop these guys. Maybe Tyreek Hill was just too tired from catching 13 times 270 yards. But they didn't slow their best guys at all, where Belichick is known for taking away a certain, part of, a team's offense. They didn't take away anything. I mean, KC should have won that game by 3 touchdowns. Also, you look at the last 2 games, Tampa Bay looked good. I didn't think the Packers that good all year. They did have a good record. But the Chiefs beat, I thought, the Red Hot Bills team. They hadn't one weakness, right? No running game, but one of the best defenses in the league. And Mahomes just killed them, destroyed them. And they won easily, 38-24, wasn't even that close. The Bucs are playing at home, first team ever to play the Super Bowl at home, right? That game's determined, years in advance, and whoever makes it, but no home team ever made it. And it's funny because the Bucs are the first team. There's only 25,000 fans allowed to attend the game. To put that in perspective, there will be 30,000 cutouts in the seats, which is insane. More cutout people than people at that game. But another big disadvantage for the Bucs is they have these big cannons that they shoot off every time they score, but the league said you're not allowed to use those. You can't use those. You can't use it for the Super Bowl because this is a neutral site, a neutral game. So they're going to be able to bang those cannons out every time they score, which kind of sucks. But for me, I've seen the Bucs play terrible this year and get smoked. And I also saw the Chiefs play terrible. But when the Chiefs play terrible, they still manage to win games. I mean, they won 14 games. They always find a way to gut it out somehow. I'm rooting for Brady, but I think he's going to have a weak game here. The X factor is Fournette. If he runs for 100 yards, catches pass out of the backfield, they'll keep it close. They have a shot to win. I don't know if that's going to happen. But at the end, Mahomes is just too much. He's that great. He's that awesome. And the fact last year, he played terrible for 3 quarters. Should have lost that game. That's motivation. He's going to come out. I think he's going to come out strong. See Chiefs take a 14-0 lead right away. That's what I believe. I think they're going to continue to play great. And also, Bieniemy, who is the best offensive coordinator in the league, he should be a head coach for 20 freaking teams over the past couple of years, got passed over again. And I think this team, this offense, is incredibly motivated to blow the doors off of one of the best defenses, with Bieniemy leading the way, calling the plays. So the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl over the Bucs, 34-24. Last thing here, prop bets. There's an under-over for Brady's rushing yards. You know what it is? It's a half a yard. It's a half a yard because he never ever runs. However, he does quarterback sneaks all the time. Every 3rd and 4th down, he's the best guy to do quarterback sneaks in the whole freaking league. Every time he does, he gets like 2-3 yards. You need 1 3rd and 1, and he's going to quarterback sneak. You get that. It's a half a yard. I think it's an easy bet. Total interceptions of the game, 1.5. I would take the over. I think Brady's going to have 2 by himself. I think Mahomes might have 1 as well. And if you can't find it, because there's a prop bet that I like, but Sammy Watkins, they said he's going to play. Sammy Watkins will score a TD in the Super Bowl. This guy is going to be left wide open with all the other weapons, and he's very difficult to guard one-on-one. Did great last year, Super Bowl. I think he's going to score a TD, and he is coming back for this game. I think, make sure he's playing, but that's another prop bet. So that's, again, give it to me, me. Hopefully, I don't know how you want to bet it since I won last year, but I was hoping to give you this with the full breakdown, and then you put everything you can on the books and win, and this way you can celebrate, because that's all I want to do is try to make you guys money. But I did with last year, so I wouldn't go too crazy, and let's see if this is a trend where I'm going to be right for 8 or 9 years. But I have the Chiefs winning 34-24 over the Bucs, and really, I hope it's a good game, and I'm rooting for Brady. I mean, I hope I'm wrong here, and Brady goes great and goes out. I mean, he's still going to play for a couple more years, but I'll be amazing if he pulls this off, because I think the Chiefs are a much better team based on the way they played that last game and their defense. They were unbelievable. So if they both play their best games, I think the Chiefs easily win this game. But Chiefs don't play that well. It will be close. But we'll see. Hoping for a good game on Sunday. All right, guys, that's it for me. Be sure to check out my Curzio Research YouTube page, which broadcasting right now. Again, you can see my Brady jersey. We pull up, sites and research. You get to see me and Daniel, the good-looking Daniel Creech, as he chuckles. Yeah, I'll show you. He's a chuckle. Yeah, really good-looking guy. Anyway, it's nice being young.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm getting older. I got a birthday coming up.
Oh, yeah? When is it? This way you can get everyone to, what's your email? Everyone's
35 soon. Imagine
you're going to get all the people from the left sending you nice presents.
Wonderful. Send them to me.
But, you can watch the Curzio Research. And be sure to like it, subscribe to it. It's really, it's getting a lot of traction now because people like to see these videos and stuff. And it's cool. We're able to bring up sites and you can see us do the research process of what we're actually doing here. Or you can listen to iTunes, which is fine. Also, I mentioned earlier, we'll open up Curzio Venture Opportunities. It's either going to be tonight or tomorrow. And when I say open up, we're offering it for a 40% discount for anyone that's coming in. And there's a reason why. Whenever I sell my products, I only do it when I think it is a great, great time for you to make money, right? Really, it's all the products. You'll see when we promote them the most, it's the time that I think you should be buying them. Performance grade Curzio Venture Opportunities, but there's one particular stock that I'm talking about. I'm incredibly bullish on. It's a gold stock. It's sitting on a high grade gold deposit based on its last drilling results. Still under the radar, credible asset that I have pegged being worth over 400, probably more like $600 million. Yet the market cap of this company is like 70 million. So this is something that I think in terms of the risk reward, it's little risk here, ton of reward. They just raised money. They're fully funded. They put together several high-profile guys to run the company, including one of the best engineers, geologists in the world who could have went any place, and he went to this small company. This guy helped run the largest gold mine in Nevada for decades. Several catalysts coming up over the next few weeks, next 2-3 months, including more drilling results, which I think are going to be fantastic. Why? Because I visited the site and I saw it right up front. On the surface, it was amazing. I showed these rocks to some of my subscribers, and it's absolutely incredible. And again, when I heard about this company, I had to go see it in person. I did that, and I really, really like it. I think it's incredible. And they're also going to come out with something called a pre-feasibility study, which determines the economics of it. When that happens, this asset's going to be re-rated. Okay, it puts a stamp of approval on it, and it's going to put this under the radar company. It's going to be like a flashlight in front of the whole entire mining industry. The best part, this is a mine that's operating in one of the most friendly areas in the world, in this particular state. I won't give it away, to the point where this is a mine that can go in production inside of 5 years. They're projected 4 years. I think it's going to be 5 years. The average mine is probably 12 to 15 years. And if that's the case and they come out with these drilling results, I think you're going to see this company be bought. But it's a good opportunity. It came down a little bit after they raised money, which is normal. Fully funded for the next 2-3 years. It's just a really, really good play. And again, my job is to show you returns. If you buy this stock and it goes down, you're not going to subscribe again and you're going to hate whatever. So for me, when it comes to marketing, it's always, we don't get paid by companies to recommend them or anything. It's me showing you returns and where the stock is trading. I think it's a really good opportunity to come to Curzio Venture Opportunities. By the way, I own a lot of the positions in the stock. I eat my own cooking here. This is my largest position in my portfolio right now. So, and I'm not going to sell this out until you sell out, until I instruct you to sell out. It's going to be after you. So something I'm excited about. And to learn more about this, just go to our website, curzioresearch.com. See a banner up there. Again, we don't discount this product often. And, I'm doing it because, again, we want to get subscribers in here because I really like this opportunity. And if you don't come in, it's perfectly fine because it is an expensive newsletter, back-end newsletter. But I just want to let you know that we are promoting it and going to promote it probably for the next 7 days or so, maybe 10 days tops. But if you want to come in, I'd come in on that discount because it is 40% cheaper. Okay, guys. That's it for me. Great podcast, great guest today. Going into a lot of different topics. And love you guys. And next week, another great guest. And Mark Randolph, I'm telling you, the interview is fantastic. It's awesome. It's taped already. He wanted me to put it out it's a week and a half later because he's launching his podcast. I mean, this is a great guy. It's a great interview. Awesome. And trust me, you're going to like it. You really are. If you're a small business owner, any of you out there, an entrepreneur, please listen to this interview. It's going to be fantastic. This guy's really, really sharp and great. Again, Mark Randolph, co-founder of that small company called Netflix. So guys, that's it for me. Thanks so much for listening. As always, I'll see you in 7 days. Take care.